This week, we welcome William Hutchinson, CEO and co-founder of SimSpace, to discuss cyber readiness, train as you fight. In the leadership and communications section, a tougher balancing act in 2024, the year of the CISO, CISO's struggle for C-suite status, even as expectations skyrocket. Want to be a better leader? Stop thinking about work after hours, and more. Business Security Weekly starts now.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
Broadcasting live, it's the show where we explore the business of security to improve the security of business. Your trusted source for actionable insights on leadership, communication, and innovation. Get ready for Business Security Weekly. Panoptica, Cisco's cloud application security solution, provides end-to-end lifecycle protection for cloud-native application environments. It empowers organizations to safeguard their APIs, serverless functions, containers, and Kubernetes environments. Panoptica ensures comprehensive cloud security, compliance, and monitoring at scale, offering deep visibility, contextual risk assessments, and actionable remediation insights for all your cloud assets. Get more information at securityweekly.com/Panoptica.
Let's talk about something that's becoming increasingly important for enterprise companies worldwide: cyber risk management. Traditionally, cyber risk has been managed manually in silos, separate from the business's core operations. The future is about getting real-time risk insights benchmarked against your industry peers through automation. And CyberSaint's CyberStrong platform is leading the charge. CyberStrong is not just another point solution. It's a revolutionary platform. It's a quantified top-down risk approach where your unique cyber risks inform C-suite decision-making. If you're looking to elevate your cyber risk management program, CyberStrong is your answer. Download your free copy of Gartner's report on continuous controls monitoring by visiting securityweekly.com/CyberSaint.
Welcome to Business Security Weekly. This is episode number 336, recorded January 29th, 2024. I am your host, Matt Alderman, back fresh and ready from a beautiful week in Mexico. Joining remotely are my co-hosts this week, which I have not seen in 2 weeks plus. First, Mr. Jason Albuquerque. A lot of football, buddy.
Oh, it's been a while. A lot of football. We had 2 conference championships, and we have our Super Bowl set, 49ers Chiefs. We were talking about it in the pre-show, not really how we wanted to pan out, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a good Super Bowl, no doubt.
It'll be fun for sure. Also joining me this week, Mr. Ben Carr. Welcome, Ben.
Hey, Matt. Good to be back again. A couple weeks off there. I was getting a little lonely, but yeah, excited to be back in the saddle, and let's see where the discussion takes us today.
Absolutely. Well, before we get there, 2 quick announcements. Join our Discord channel to chat with us throughout the live show today. Visit securityweekly.com/Discord to receive an invite and become part of our community. Don't let third-party risk ruin your Valentine's Day. Join Adrian Sanabria and Bill Brenner on an SC Media webcast titled Understanding Third-Party Risk by Studying Third-Party Breaches. As listeners will know, Adrian loves exploring risk through our understanding of real breaches and incidents. They'll discuss how to prepare for some of the most concerning third-party risks you should be aware of, along with our partner for this webcast, Process Unity. Visit securityweekly.com/Valentine Risk to register for the webcast. CEO and co-founder of SimSpace, William Hutchinson, has over 20 years of leadership experience in public and private sectors, spearheading cutting-edge tactical and strategic cyber exercises at state, federal, and international levels. Before co-founding SimSpace in 2015, Hutch was a decorated senior Air Force officer, clocking in over 3,500 hours in F-15 Eagle and T-38 Talon aircraft. Based on his extensive experience conducting red flag exercises in the military, Hutch was handpicked to lead U.S. Cyber Command's first Joint Force-on-Force tactical cyber training exercise, Cyber Flag. Hutch has also founded the DoD's inaugural Cyber Guard exercise with the aim of coalescing entities from state and federal level. Hutch, welcome to Business Security Weekly.
Thank you, Matt. Glad to be here.
And thank you for your service. One of the reasons I wanted to bring you on is your decoration, your dedication to our country intrigued me to bring you on for this interview segment.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed my time flying for the Air Force, but it also set me up for, sort of my post-military career.
Yeah, I think Jason has a very similar story as well. So Jason and you might have some reminiscing to do on this segment.
I think we're going to have a nice conversation right now about train as you fight.
Yes. So we're going to talk cyber readiness, cyber resilience. Some people might call it cyber resilience. Hutch, like when I think about being cyber ready, I think about tabletop exercises, and having gone through one recently, there are certain things you can't really exercise in a tabletop exercise, if you know what I mean by that. So let's start a little bit about some of the challenges with how do you become cyber ready if you're only doing tabletop exercises?
Yeah, great question, Matt. So actually, I'll lean quite a bit on my time in the military. Let me start at the outset to say that I think tabletop exercises are a great way to start to work through some procedural aspects of being prepared or ready, sort out, the beginnings of of your playbook, if you will, but then to become what we would call mission ready or combat ready. This is where you need to get on a keyboard and actually start to run through those playbooks, if you will, in real time on a very stressful circumstance. And you'll find, I think, that maybe you need to improve your playbook or some things that weren't quite obvious from the outset. So I think tabletops are a good step, at least initially, and perhaps on a continual basis, but they need to be augmented, enhanced with on keyboard, very realistic simulations to get you to that next level of mission readiness, or what we would call in the military combat readiness.
And now, Hutch, I mean, I served in the Marine Corps, and I'm very familiar with Marine Corps unit training management and their guidelines. And, the philosophy of the Marine Corps is train in peace so you can fight well in war, right? And ultimately, leaders are expected to prepare based on the reality of enemy doctrine at the time. So, do you suggest real-time emulation of threats that are going on in the moment today? And that's what you train on, much like the military does with, based on current enemy doctrine?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's not just sort of train as you fight, but to your point, it's better to fail in training than in the battlefield. And I think of the production network, that is your battlefield. So your job as a leader is to get your team prepared, and doing that kind of training with, to your point, very realistic, just as lethal attacks that you would find in production, that needs to be focused on and rehearsed over and over again. And I'd go so far to say also that, as is in combat, conduct mission rehearsals where let's say you'll spend 50% of your time on plan A, but the rest of that, the other 50% is spent on plan B and C, so that in the moment, if you had to pivot to plan B or C, it comes more natural, and it allows you to operate at that excellent level. Operational excellence is really what you should be striving for.
So that brings up the first question of, well, where do you train, right? You can't really train effectively in production, can you? You don't want to take down your production system. So do you have staging environment? Like, how do you test combat, right, in an environment where you're not on the battlefield, or in this case, your production systems?
Well, I think the safest place to do that very stressful, realistic cyber shock assessments or mission rehearsal would be in an offline system that to a high fidelity replicates what you have in production. So your security tools, not only your security tools, but the security settings that you would have in production. And this, to your point, would allow you to do the appropriate mission rehearsal practice in a consequence-free manner. If you did it in production, there could be perhaps inadvertent disruption of very key operational systems. The other thing that you would have a challenge of doing in the real network would be data manipulation or actually destruction of certain key assets. The other thing to think about is that a very determined adversary will likely take out your primary security tools. Again, trying to practice that in the real network would be very much a challenge. So having a isolated, separate instance of your real network with all of the same expected tools that you would practice with. So again, back to train as you fight, that is probably the best place to conduct these very realistic mission rehearsal, cyber shock type of training events.
So Hutch, in order to do that, again, having served and having gone through these type of exercises, with my units in the past, a lot of the heavy lift, a lot of the do hard of this is actually building out the exercises themselves, right? So going through some type of an exercise format where you have folks responsible for building out what this exercise is going to look like, everywhere from the analysis of what the exercise is going to contain, designing the actual exercise itself, the development, the implementation, and then, hey, by the way, the thing that a lot of organizations forget to do is the evaluation, the after action review of how you did, how well you did. Is there continuous improvement that you can look toward, remediation that you can look toward? What do you feel is a best practice for folks who want to go through this but really don't know how to build out these exercises in a formalized format?
Well, you're exactly right. These are not easy things to pull off. Frankly, our company has spent quite a bit of time, frankly, the last 9 years working on accelerating that build out. To your point, there's quite a bit of time that needs to be spent on the planning, building stage. Then another lift is actually executing. And I think to one of your other comments, which is terribly critical, is the after action reporting. Get to the ground truth, figure out what was done well, where are areas that could be improved. But before you do that, you have to get to the ground truth, figure out the facts so that the follow-on recommendations could be more relevant and more accurate, more helpful. But the ability to rapidly stand up a high fidelity copy is something that we have worked on for a number of years, and we have been able to get it to collapse it from months and tens of folks on both sides, both on the customer side as well as our team, to a couple of days. In fact, we're trying to get it to about a 72-hour time frame to make all that happen. But once that's in place, that provides you with quite a bit of flexibility, and a lot of other use cases emerge beyond just that, formal assessment. You can do testing, you can do more customized follow-up training as well.
Yeah. Now, do you recommend? Go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say. So we were as you were talking through that. I'm a big believer in what you're addressing, right? And I think doing the testing and running through simulations as close to the actual production environment as possible brings a lot of value. And one of the things I really liked you said is look, failure is really important, right? I mean, I think you actually learn a lot more from failure, and doing it in a safe environment where it's not actually production, but it's simulated as closely as it can will tell you a lot. And then Jason brought up the point about bringing in the after action report and the assessment and what you do. But I'm wondering about, how you feel about the middle piece there. Like, I feel like there's a piece between there, which a lot of companies, a lot of organizations don't consider, is that they look at the technical aspects of that training and evaluation and making sure that the cyber side is up to pace, but they're not involving the rest of the organization, right? They're not bringing in legal, they're not bringing in Marcom, they're not like looking at external counsel, quite frankly, the external marketing and crisis response, and looking at it kind of that end-to-end simulation, and then doing the after-action report and identifying, not just the things that failed on the cyber side and control side, but also, hey, we didn't know how to reach out quickly enough to outside counsel, or, we didn't get the right answers from, marketing to be able to address customer concerns really quickly. How does that fit in, or do you see that as being a big piece that a lot of people are missing out on in the full picture?
No, it's a great point, and absolutely we do. So there's a number of ways to cut it. When we focus strictly on the technical team, we tap a few individuals to act as role players, business owners, legal representatives, just to spend a lot of energy on improving that first technical response and getting that optimized. But then another way to bring in, and let me build on that just a little bit further. Normally, we start with the incident responder or the incident handler team, but then it tends to grow from there, where we'll bring in threat intel, we'll bring in the threat detectors, then we'll bring in disaster recovery, then we'll bring in the infrastructure team. So strictly just focused on the technical side, there is this enlargement of the training audience or the assessment audience. On top of what you just said, another construct that I think is a nice fit, where you can imagine day one is focused on the technical side. There's an attack that is simulated, but then going into day two, you add this tabletop that we spoke of earlier, where it's the leadership strata that's involved. And if you will, the outputs of the technical exercise provide the starting point for that leadership tabletop. And then you could sort of intermix the two, where there are leadership decisions that are made, then they make those outputs back to the technical team. And then over the course of a 1 or 2, maybe even a 3-day exercise, you fold in that broader response that's not just focused on the immediate attack eradication or remediation, but then how does that impact the broader company, and then what does the company do outside themselves?
Yeah, and just to kind of tether into the conversation a little bit, having diverse training techniques and or exercise types, I think, is important as well. I mean, in the military, you do combined exercises, right? Combined arms exercises, multi-echelon exercises. You can do prime time training, hip pocket training, long range full scale, right? So I think having those different types of trainings that you can go through, those exercises you can go through at different scales, especially for the larger organizations, at different scales, I think is important as well, right? Because you can have those more business unit centric trainings happening at the same time, but you're kind of focused in different areas. Then you can bring it all together, or you can have more of that prime time when you need it, trainings happening throughout the organization. Do you see that as a technique that can be successful, especially in larger organizations, having different types of exercises and training techniques running throughout the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. And we are really borrowed from the best practices from the military, which is, as a suggestion, you start off with an assessment of your team. As an output of that, again, we would find out what was done well, and then areas that could be improved. What should also emerge from that would be a suggested annual training or readiness plan, where you would start to enumerate, well, following this, let's focus on the people side. Let's, if there are shortcomings at the individual operator level, let's build out customized learning paths for each one of those operators and get their readiness in alignment. and then building on that individual training improvement plan, then they would form sub-teams or teams as part of their SOC response organization. Then you would train as a team, get the team to some level of readiness over the course of a quarter or 6 months or a year. In addition, there ought to be suggested ways to get your technology optimized or improved as well. So not only is there a different strata of training, and it would be customized to which particular team you're on, whether you're part of the threat detection team, the analysis team, threat intel. But then there ought to be this, broader testing focus. And then finally, as part of this annual process, they ought to be continually looking at ways to improve communication, leadership development, simple things like how do you do a shift change, but bringing it all together in sort of a three-dimensional way where you're looking at people, you're improving your tech, and finally you're trying to optimize or enhance your processes.
Yeah. Can we jump in a little bit to responsibility and accountability, right? Because, we talk about, at least, from Marine Corps unit training management guides, we talk about make the commanders responsible for training. And we always say as security leaders, we can't do it by ourselves. We can't be fully accountable and fully responsible for all of this training. And in the military, the commanders they do more than just manage the training, right? They're part of the training. Their presence demonstrates that they have skin in the game. The senior commanders are in charge of direct training subordinate commanders and getting them up to speed and really building that pipeline. Can that translate into the business world where you can have that shared responsibility model where the business unit commanders are responsible for the training and being part of the training and having their involvement to help bolster the exercise and help support and show their support for the exercise? Do you see that translating over to business?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, we've seen it in practice. It turns out that these sort of exercises or mission rehearsals are great crucibles for leadership development, leadership ownership. There's nothing more clarifying or crystallizing to have to get in front of your team and explain what you're going to do. Then you go do it and then explain what you did. And if you hadn't done things very well, make recommendations on improvement. Putting people in front of the room to do those things is a great way to bring responsibility, bring ownership, and it's a great way to build confidence. And if it's done in a constructive way, it is probably the best way to bring that level of accountability, that level of leadership to cyberspace.
Which means there has to be some buy-in from the top down, right? I mean, at the end of the day, because if it's not coming from the top down, you don't get that engagement, then you're not going to get that collaboration that you need to actually make this work, right, Hutch?
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, leadership does matter. Getting buy-in, getting top cover, being allowed to fail in these kind of simulated mission rehearsals is absolutely critical. And there's going to be some friction in the beginning because it's taking folks out of their comfort level. They don't like to fail. No one likes to. But if leadership will adopt this, it's train as you fight, and it's better to fail in training than in a real circumstance. That'll make all the difference.
Yeah, I mean, just experience through some of the exercises we've done. The people in the process side of this is where I think sometimes we miss the mark. We think the technology, right? And I think Ben and Jason pulled that string pretty well here, is like when I think about cloud, right, and I think about all the systems that are running outside of your control, like, do I even have the contact information for my Salesforce people to restore my environment, right? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think this is where going beyond a tabletop will start to reveal some of the things that you mentioned. Well, I don't have a contact list, or I thought it'd be a little bit easier. I thought it'd take it would happen a lot faster. But getting to experience something in real time will, I think, be the best preparation step for how things would go in production.
Yeah, the last one, just quickly, is the ability to do a recovery from your backups, right? I brought this up during our prep call. I remember the days where we did our tape rotations, we took them off site, and then we retested to make sure we could restore and how fast we could restore. Again, some of the shifts in technologies over the past few years, I think we made some assumptions about how easy it is to recover. And it's probably not that easy, and you should probably test it to make sure that it works.
Yeah, agree. And it's so hard to do using production assets. But if you had a high fidelity replica of your real network, you have, if you will, some less known goods, you have some restore points, and it would help you answer some of the questions that will constantly be on top of your mind. Is this a safe place then to move to the next step? And from there, can we go to the next step? So one, having something to refer back to, and then I think to your point, Matt, practicing that in real time is terribly invaluable.
Absolutely. Ben, Jason, any more questions for Hutch while we have him?
No, good to go. I mean, I love the fact that we covered making sure that we have standard-based, performance-oriented, mission-oriented, sustainable training that is actually meant to challenge the organization and continuously improve. Absolutely love the conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, it was good. Thank you very much.
Hutch, thank you so much for joining us on Business Security Weekly.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
And with that, we're going to take a quick break and then cover the leadership and communications articles for this week.